Cheshvan Kislev Tevet Shvat Adar. Okay. Dimitri, do you want a piece of paper and to write?
I don't mind one.
You don't want to write it down,
yeah? I don't mind.
So here's a piece of paper.
Okay, thank you.
Fundy, a piece of paper. And a pencil.
Yeah.
There we go. Pencil. We're all set. Okay. So
maybe we should sing again because it was very bad.
Sure. Sing it again. Nisan, Iyar, Sivan, Tammuz, Av, Elul, Tishrei, Cheshvan, Kislev, Tevet, Shvat, Adar. What month are we in now? Month of Iyar, second month. First month is month of Nisan. And now I want you to take your pen and circle, if you can, most of you have the pages in front of you, which of the festivals are mentioned in the Torah? Which of the Jewish holidays are mentioned in the Torah? Good morning, Yisrael. Do you have your page from yesterday, the months of the year? Perfect. Good morning. Okay, everybody got that? So what do we have? Which of the festivals are mentioned in the Torah?
Pesach.
Right, so there's the three festivals you're supposed to go up to Jerusalem. Pesach, Shavuot, and Sukkot. Good. Rosh Hashanah and Yom Kippur are also mentioned in the Torah. Yes, Rosh Hashanah is mentioned in the Torah. It's not called Rosh Hashanah. It's, something similar, but it's definitely mentioned in the Torah. So those are the 5 biblical holidays. Did you get those? Pesach, Passover, Pesach, Shavuot, and Rosh Hashanah, Yom Kippur, Sukkot. Basically, the month of Tishrei, festivals of the month of Tishrei. Those are that's the New Year. And what month is that of the year?
Which one?
Tishrei. Tishrei is month 7. So the other half of the year starts with month number 1. I said yesterday that the year starts in Tishrei, that's September time, that's the beginning of the agricultural cycle. The Torah came along and said to us, Hashem said to us, when you came out of Egypt, make Nisan, the month you came out of Egypt, the first month. So that's why we have 2 beginnings of the year. We have the beginnings of the months of the year in Nisan, and the beginning of the year in month number 7. It's 2 half cycles. It's really an interesting system. Okay, now I'd like you to underline on your chart all of the rabbinic holidays instituted by the rabbis.
Is fast day considered a holiday?
No, fast day is not a holiday. And while you're at it, draw a box around all the fast days. I'd like you to add, after the holiday, whenever there's an Isru Chag, put the letter X. Or the letter, you know what, better, is a plus sign. Put a plus sign after each holiday where there's an Isru Chag. We covered this yesterday. So. Isru Chag is like the day after the festival. It has a little bit of festivity still left in it. In Israel, it's known because there's no school on Isru Chag. That's right, we don't recite Tachman, yeah. Okay, so the fast days are pretty easy, right? It says on a fast days. Mm-hmm. The only thing is there's one missing. There's one missing, which is the fast of Gedalia after Rosh Hashanah. We're going to have to add it in for the next time. We get to the printer. The printer's down now. I was going to fix it now. Okay, and the rabbinic holidays. So what did you have for rabbinic holidays, Yosef? What did you write? Which rabbinic holidays?
The rabbinic holiday.
Yeah, which one?
Purim.
Purim, good. Bottom of the page. Purim is a rabbinical holiday. What else? Chanukah. Excellent, good. Really, you're almost got them all. Anybody add anything else to the rabbinical holidays? Chanukah, Purim. So personally, I think I would put Yom HaTzmaut and Yom Yerushalayim together with Purim and Chanukah as rabbinic additions.
Gedalia is there?
The fast of Gedalia is after Rosh Hashanah. It's a fast day after Rosh Hashanah.
Lag Bomer is not.
So,
Yom Kippur.
Yom Kippur is biblical. Yom Kippur is biblical. It's in the Torah. You have to fast on
But
the
do
10th.
you fast?
It's true. You're right. Good point. We said it's a biblical festival, and it's also a fast day.
Yeah.
Good point. Well done. Well done, Nachon. You got me. Yes, Chananel.
There's a time when the father and the firstborn son fast. There is a fast day, right?
There are individual fast days. There is a custom. It's a very late custom. It's not biblical or rabbinic, but it is a very ancient custom that on the day before Pesach, the father firstborn children fast. If it's just a baby, then the father fasts for his firstborn son. But the fast of the firstborn is also a tradition. Usually we don't fast. Usually we arrange that there'll be a celebration. And Rabbinic Judaism, they explain that whenever you make a big celebration for a mitzvah, that can override certain types of fasts. So we arrange that every Erev Pesach, someone makes a Siyum Masechet, a completion of a section of learning Torah, and whoever is the firstborn, he goes and celebrates, participates in this celebration. He doesn't actually fast. But there is the fast of the firstborn on the day before Pesach. It's true. I didn't put it in there because it's not really mandated. It's not obligated. It's not on the same level as trying to get you used to the idea that there's a biblical level and a rabbinic level, and then there is something less. And this is what I want to answer Stephen to his question. Really, the only rabbinic holidays are Chanukah and Purim, and if you would like, though we don't really have the centralized authority to be able to create new holidays, the chief rabbinate of Israel, at least, and my rabbis, they declared Yom HaTzmaut and Yom Yerushalayim should be festivals as well. So those, I would put them in rabbinic holidays, although not every rabbi agrees. What's left are days which are not biblical, and they're not even rabbinic holidays. They're days which have some measure of joy, days which have a commemoration. And what are those days? Pesach Sheni, Lag BaOmer, Tu B'Shvat, that's right, and if you want, you could add Isru Chag as well. The Isru Chags, there's some level of commemoration. It's not quite a festival. And that is, when do we have an Isru Chag? So after Pesach. Where did you put your plus sign? After Shavuot.
After Sukkot.
And after Sukkot, right. There's an Isru Chag after all those three. Exactly. And after Shavuot, you could put even 6 plus signs. Remember we said yesterday that after Shavuot, there's 6 days where we don't recite Tachanun. After Shavuot, because in the temple they needed an extra 6 days for bringing all the sacrifices on that one day festival was not enough. Okay, so that's a good review. Now there's one other. This is a little bit of a strange one. On the one hand, it's a biblical holiday. On the other hand, it's not really a holiday. We just have some sort of a commemoration of it. What I'm referring to is Rosh Chodesh. Every single month there is a Rosh Chodesh except for Tishrei. Tishrei, we don't really celebrate Rosh Chodesh because we're celebrating Rosh Hashanah on the first day of Tishrei. But every other month we celebrate Rosh Chodesh, which doesn't mean that we do much. In the temple they would bring a special sacrifice, so we have an extra prayer service. And so that's essentially, but it's not a festival, it's not a biblical, there's no prohibition of work, and you don't really usually celebrate anything, but there is a commemoration. So it's a little bit in the third category of, a minimal commemoration, but its origin is, of course, biblical. Torah speaks about Rosh Chodesh being a special day because there's a special sacrifice on the Rosh Chodesh. Okay, hopefully that's clear. When they get the printer here working again, I'll try to fix up the page for you. And one other thing we didn't mention, don't forget, at the end of Sukkot, there's an additional holiday on the 8th day called Shmini Atzeret. It's not on your chart. Sukkot includes sometimes Shmini Atzeret, so it's not wrong, but okay, so this was a good review. And one other thing that's biblical, that's not on your chart, which is what we're doing right now. These days. Today, what day is today? What day is today? Today is Tuesday. And what's the date, the Hebrew date? It's about Kaf Hey, ER. Yeah, that's good. Kaf Hey, ER. And anything else special about today? What do we say today is?
Because it's a Tuesday.
It's Tuesday. What else?
Cafe.
Yeah. What else? How Jewishly would you mark today in an additional way? How easily we forget, huh?
39.
Close.
What?
Today's 40. 40 days of the Omer. We're counting the Omer. Today's the 40th day of the Omer. So it says in the Torah that you have to count the Omer.
I was looking at what's special. I was looking at the list in your room.
Yeah, what? It was the Omer. It's the 40th day of the Omer. And so that's actually a biblical mitzvah to count from the second day of Passover all the way through to 49 days till Shavuot, the day before Shavuot. So today's day 40. How many days left until Shavuot? Well, 9 plus 1, because the Shavuot's on the 50th day. So 10 days to go. 10 days to go till the festival of Shavuot.
So actually Shavuot will be in 10 days, really?
Yes.
Wow, that's one of the greatest celebrations, right?
Yes, it's a great celebration, absolutely. It's a place, definitely a place to be. Before that, we have an amazing celebration coming up, which we're going to talk about more. And that is Yom Yerushalayim. Yerushalayim is this Thursday night, Friday. We start the celebrations on Thursday. Boker Tov. Boker Tov.
We have class?
We have regular classes on Thursday, but in the afternoon we go on a special tour of Jerusalem, of the where the war of attrition was and where the actual battle was in 1967. One of the commanders in the IDF just happens to be the Rosh Yeshiva of Dov Bigun, was a commander an officer in the army, and he fought here in Jerusalem in 1967. Yes, he's that ancient. He's over 80. Baruch Hashem, but he's can tell us firsthand of his experiences in this miraculous war. And famously, the war started actually a few days before Kafchet Iyar. I think it actually started on Kaf Hey Iyar, which is today. Mm-hmm. Today might be the commemoration of the day of the beginning of the war. And despite our being totally outnumbered in numbers of tanks and planes and soldiers from the 7 Arab armies which threatened to push us into the sea, we were victorious over all those armies in just 6 days, and so we commemorate that on Yom Yerushalayim. In particular, on the 3rd day of the war, the Israeli armies managed to reclaim the half of Jerusalem which was taken by the Jordanians, and they kicked out all the Jews who were living in Jerusalem in 1948. And since 48 to 67, that's how many years? Almost 20 years, 19 years. The old city of Jerusalem, and half of the city of Jerusalem was behind a massive wall. There was a wall smack down the middle of Jerusalem. It doesn't exist anymore. There's a famous song by Naomi Shemer, who she wrote her song just before the 6-Day War, actually, and it was very popular. It became like an anthem, the anthem of the war. And in that song, one of the stanzas has a sign. It says that Jerusalem of gold, I'm talking about, that's the name of the song, Yerushalayim Shel Zahav. And in the middle, it speaks about how Jerusalem has a wall in its midst. And people who don't know the history, they think it refers to, of course, the Western Wall, the Wailing Wall. But that's not what it referred to. It referred to the wall, which was separating eastern and western Jerusalem, which was the border between the Jordanians who came in 1948 and kicked all the Jews out and put up a wall. And then, once the war was fought, and the soldiers on Kafchet Iyar, that's Friday, some 56 years ago, they came and they were so moved to be able to once again visit the Kotel and reclaim the houses which they were kicked out of and so forth. They started to sing. Naturally, they sang this new song, which was it was a popular song on the radio, Yerushalayim Shel Zahav, and so it became a little bit of an anthem of this day. Anyways, it's interesting that Jerusalem Day is 1 week exactly before Shavuot. Kafchet Iyar is 8 days before Vav Sivan, which is Shavuot. It's always 1 week, precisely 1 week before Shavuot. Shavuot is the following Thursday night, Friday. Yom Yerushalayim is this coming Thursday night, Friday. And forever, Yom Yerushalayim and Shavuot are going to be connected. I mean, they were always connected because in Shavuot it was one of the festivals, one of the 3 festivals that the Jewish people were commanded to go to Jerusalem, to the temple. But in particular, Shavuot is more associated with Jerusalem because of this historical event from 56 years ago. Because what happened was that after Israel conquered, again, allowed access for the Jewish people to the Kotel, the war was just over. It was over in 6 days. And so a few days after the war was over, came the holiday of Shavuot. And it's an amazing phenomenon. Rabbi tells the story. He was there. He was both fighting in the war And then he was still a soldier when the war ended, and he was sent to be a guard, to be on guard duty at the Kotel. And he said on the night of Shavuot, this was not really organized in any fashion, but it was some sort of a natural outburst of love for Jerusalem, for the Western Wall, is that the night of Shavuot, there's a custom, we're going to talk about it more, there's a custom to stay up all night. Not everybody does it, you don't have to, but there's a custom to stay up all night and learn Torah. So we celebrate the giving of the Torah. Stay up all night. So what happened was, all night long, Jews from all over Jerusalem, all the different neighborhoods, decided, wow, we have access to the Kotel. And so in the middle of the night, people started to stream towards the Kotel. They walked, of course. There's no, you don't use a car on Shavuot, and all the streets are empty in the middle of the night anyways. And so the streets became like a river of people going streaming to the Kotel. And the first Shavuot after it was recaptured, and it was an amazing event where just thousands and thousands and thousands of people came on the festival of Shavuot to celebrate at the Kotel as close as we can to the temple. We don't have a temple, but the one remaining wall, it's a retaining wall on the Temple Mount. And to this day, 56 years later, it became a tradition. And if you go in 10 days, if you're here in Machon Meir, we have classes, we have learning all night long, and some people stay here and do the morning prayers, the crack of dawn. That's the tradition. It's called, what's it called? Morning prayers? The crack of dawn?
Netz.
Netz, another name for that. Netz means the sunrise. Another name for the prayer, the type of people who pray. It's called Vatikim. Vatikim. Vatikim means the elders or the pious ones. And so the pious elders used to pray at the crack of dawn. And so there's a tradition that if you're up all night, of course you want to go to sleep. You want to, but the point is to be up and to be ready at the crack of dawn to pray the special prayers for the Shavuot holiday. And we read from the Torah about the revelation at Sinai. And then you have a bite to eat and you go to sleep because you're up all night. So this tradition, there are some people in Machon Meir that are going to leave 2 a.m., 3 a.m., 4 a.m. and they'll walk, even though it's an hour, approximately. How long does it take to walk to the Kotel from here?
Shortcut, 50 minutes. If you want to go in the Kotel, 50 minutes.
50 minutes is the quickest. 55 minutes, yeah.
Jaffa Gate is 45, but you still have to walk in.
You got to get to the Kotel, right? So it's an hour. It's an hour walk. And so some people do the trek, and it's amazing. All night long, till today, 56 years, it became like a new custom, a new Jewish custom, that you walk to the Kotel on Shavuot, and the Kotel is packed at daybreak. We're talking, the daybreak is 5:45 in the morning. So it's an unbelievable phenomenon. And then throughout the day, of course, people come to visit the Kotel on the festivals. There is such a tradition to, even though we don't have a temple. And the temple was a mitzvah. You had to go to the temple with your offering. We don't have that temple. We don't have that mitzvah. You don't have to go to the temple or to the Temple Mount or to the Western Wall. But there is a custom to commemorate. The people go on all the 3 festivals to Jerusalem to visit the Kotel and to pray at the Kotel. So Pesach, it's easy. You've got a whole week. Sukkot, it's easy. You've got a whole week. So you could be in your home at the beginning of the festival, and then one of the intermediate days you're allowed to drive. You're allowed to go on a bus. So you go to Jerusalem and visit. Shavuot is one day. And so only the people who live in Jerusalem have the merit of being able to go to the Kotel on Shavuot. And last year, I don't live in Jerusalem. I live in Tekoa, but my daughter lives in Jerusalem. So I went to visit her. I stayed with her. And I went to the Kotel in the middle of the night. I think I saw one of our students. I don't remember who it was, but it was a great experience. It's amazing. It's amazing. It's actually quite unique. When you go to the Kotel often in Israel, I know you used to go every day, right? You don't go anymore every day.
No,
No.
every
Not every day, but you go a lot, yeah. So usually when you go to the kotel, people are always praying. There's always a prayer service. Shacharit, there's Mincha, there's Mariv. Every time of day, there's always a prayer to do. And this last time I went to the kotel, last Shavuot, I went in the middle of the night. I didn't go towards the morning, which is already time for the morning prayers, because I found in previous years that it's very long walk back wherever you have to get to. It's at least half an hour in any direction. And once the sun is up, it gets pretty hot in Jerusalem. So this time I went in the middle of the night for a little while, and then I left. I came back to the community that I was staying in, and I prayed there. I prayed my Vatican prayer, my early morning prayer, back where I was. So I didn't actually stay for the morning prayer, although that's the highlight. And what I noticed when I came in the middle of the night, I think it was 2 a.m. or something like that, it's an amazing time to be at the kotel. Because anybody who's there has already prayed Mariv, because it's the festival prayer. You do that first thing, and then you go home and you have your meal. You have to have two festive meals on Yom Tov, and so the first meal's been done, and so people come back to the kotel. But what do they come for? If you're not praying, what are you doing? What are you doing at the kotel if you're not praying? What are you doing all night?
Studying.
On Shavuot, you're studying. So the kotel turns into a study hall. It's unbelievable. Everybody's sitting together by themselves, and they're learning Torah. Some are learning Mishnayot, some are learning Gemara, some are learning Tanakh, some are learning saying Tehillah. But it becomes less a place of prayer, like it is most of the year, and becomes a place of Torah study, which is a different energy. I felt it very, very calm. You know, sometimes you go to the kotel, it's a big balagan. Balagan?
Mm-hmm.
You learned that word already. Balagan, everybody knows balagan, right? So because, come here, we need a 10th person for our minyan, or there's somebody here is blowing the shofar. This guy's taking pictures. Shavuot night, it was very calm, very, very, everybody, it was full, beautiful. It was set up in rows. Everybody was very orderly and very calm. Everybody's learning. There's nobody shouting. There's nobody, everybody was learning. And it was a nice experience. Anyways, this is how Shavuot became even more connected to Jerusalem than all the other holidays, because it was the first holiday right after the recapture of Jerusalem in 1967. And so there is this new custom that you walk to the kotel for Vatikin, for the early morning prayers on Shavuot. Yeah.
You said we don't have temple, we cannot make sacrifice, right? So I heard from someone that while we don't have temple, there is one way of sacrifice. You have to take your people, take whatever food you can, and go to the place God will show you and eat the food, and it will be some kind of sacrifice that way. Interesting.
The sages say that instead of sacrifices, it's based on a pasuk. I think it's Yeshayahu. It says, "Shalma parim sfateinu." So the way we can make up for the sacrifices with our lips. Our lips, not by eating, but by reciting the order of the sacrifices, by praying for them, by studying about them. That way we can sort of take the place of the sacrifices. But in terms of actually eating, we have to be careful. You shouldn't declare anything a sacrifice, because anything that's a sacrifice, that's actually a sacrifice, is forbidden for eating, because we're impure. We don't have the laws of purity now. We don't have a temple. You're not allowed to bring a sacrifice outside of the temple. So it's quite complicated. But to commemorate the day, we do. Every Jew everywhere has festive meals. And every Jew recites in his prayers the order of the sacrifices which were brought, so we pray about them. And as I said before, that there is a custom. Some people come up to Jerusalem to visit, but to eat there, not necessarily. Is that I've never heard of that being like a replacement for a sacrifice.
So it's not a replacement; it's more like picnic, but.
So it's nice to visit Jerusalem and to try to get close to the place where God revealed Himself to us. So so there is such a custom, absolutely, yeah. but not necessarily the eating part. The eating part is just, maybe grab a falafel, whatever.
Just simple, right? Not special at all.
That's right. The eating doesn't have any ritual associated with it. When you come up to Jerusalem, most people come up to Jerusalem, they do eat, but it's not part of the ritual. They come up to Jerusalem to pray, to visit the temple, to see the Kotel, to get close. And, okay? All right. Now, what's this idea? Why do we stay up all night? Let's talk about that a little more. Although we should be talking about Jerusalem, so we'll be in between Jerusalem Day. But first of all, you have this from yesterday. You have the chart of the holidays, and young man, Gabriel, you have your chart of the festivals from yesterday. We just went through it. Make sure we're all on the same page, literally. Nisan, Iyar, Sivan, Tammuz, Av, Elul, Tishrei, Cheshvan, Kislev, Tevet, Shvat, Adam. Hananel, what month is Tu B'Shvat in? What month is Tu B'Shvat in? Try again. Try again. Oh, what did you say? Shvat, yes. I didn't hear you properly. Yes, of course. Tu B'Shvat, that's what it means. 15 in Shvat. Tu stands for 15. Tet is 9. Vav is 6. Together, it's a little bit Jewish math. That's 15. 15th of Shvat, Tu B'Shvat. So the name Shvat is inside, the name of the month is inside the name of the holiday. It's not quite a holiday. As we said, it's a commemoration. We don't. There's not a mitzvah to do anything. It's not rabbinically declared as a holiday. It's a commemoration day, and that's why good. So which month, Yisrael? Which month is Shavuot in? Sivan. Shavuot is in the month number 3. Month of Sivan. Correct. Yes. Good. Okay. Stephen, which month is Hanukkah in? Don't look. Kislev. Okay. Dimitri, what do we do in the month of Elul?
What do we do in the month of what?
Elul. That's month number 6.
Month number 6.
That's right.
Okay, let me guess. We're doing Sukkot. We sleep.
Guess is not good. I want you to know. It says on your page, but you don't have the page from yesterday. I don't have any more copies.
I can tell you why it is good. Because when you go into your roof and you're trying to do Sukkot, while it's not Sukkot, you understand it because, for example, it will be too hot or too cold.
Okay.
So you can guess in reality.
Okay. All right. So Elul is known as preparation time for the high holidays, as it says here. Good. Sukkot is in Tishrei. Let's see. Gabriel, don't look. Trick question. How many days is Sukkot?
7 + 1.
Good. Well done.
Wow.
Very good. Michael, Aryeh. Tell me one of the fast days that we fast, which is not to commemorate the destruction of the temple. Good. 13th of Adar. Very good. Excellent. Tanit Esther on the 13th of Adar. It's the only one of the fast days. Well, there's one other. What's the other one? 10th of? No. That is to commemorate the destruction. No. But there is one more. What do you say? No, that's to commemorate the destruction. What do you say? No, that's the fast of Gedalia. That's what he just said. That is to commemorate the destruction. Very good. That's what Binyamin told us. Yom Kippur it is. Yom Kippur is a fast day for our atonement. Torah tells us we have to fast. That's the only one that's biblical. The only biblical fast is the fast of Yom Kippur. Yom Kippur doubles as a holiday and it's a fast day. How can you be so happy on a festival when you're fasting on Yom Kippur? How could it be both? How could be
That's because we're actually forgiven.
exactly, precisely, because we're forgiven. So we're very happy. But in order, part of the process of being forgiven is doing teshuvah. The Torah says part of the teshuvah is that we should fast. All right, let's see. Who can give me? Let's see. Yosef, what is the date of Yom Kippur?
10th of Tevet. I know it's 10th.
What number month is it?
Number 1. Yom Kippur. Not Tevet.
Look it up.
Let me say how I see that it's
Tishrei. Say what?
Let me say how I see that it's Yom Kippur. No cars is moving around, but instead the kids, they on the bicycles,
That's
on
it.
all the roads. That's how I see it.
How long are you in Israel?
Me, 1 year.
1 year. You managed to see already the Israeli phenomenon.
Yeah.
There's another new custom. One is to you walk to the Kotel on the Shavuot night. It's a new Israeli phenomenon, about 56 years old. And also riding bikes on Yom Kippur on the roads and the highways. It's an Israeli custom that came up because so many Jews are traditional and they know you're not supposed to drive. But they don't spend all day in the synagogue. They're not so religious. So they use someone figured out that this is an opportunity to use the roads for biking. The kids are all over the roads. Very interesting. Okay. Very good. Who can tell me? Hananel. What do we commemorate on Lag BaOmer? What do we commemorate on Lag BaOmer? And what's it about? Why do we mark it as a special day? Rabbi Akiva, something to do with Rabbi Akiva. Yeah, what about him? You're right. The Talmud says that Rabbi Akiva had 12,000 pairs of students. Apparently, they all got divorced. Well, I don't know, they weren't married, but they 12,000 pairs, and they didn't treat each other with respect, and they all died in some mysterious way. We don't know exactly how they all died. Some people say it was a plague. Some people say it was they were fighting in the war, in the revolt against the Roman control over Israel. Whatever the reason is, the Talmud says that they all died between Pesach and Shavuot. And one tradition says they died up until half before Shavuot. What is half before Shavuot? Half of what? So what interpretation is that it was half a month? Half a month before Shavuot, that's 2 weeks before Shavuot. Works out to be just around Lag BaOmer. And there's a tradition that on Lag BaOmer that these students of Rabbi Akiva stopped dying. It was that the plague was over, or the calamity ceased, and so there was great celebration. That's one reason, one thing we commemorate on Lag BaOmer. Very good. What else?
The death of Rabbi Shimon Bar Yochai.
Some people say he died on that day, Rabbi Shimon Bar Yochai, student of Rabbi Akiva, one of those 5 students who survived. And some people say these 5 students got ordained on the day of Lag BaOmer. Some people say it's the day that Rabbi Shimon Bar Yochai died. Why would we celebrate on the day that Rabbi Shimon Bar Yochai died?
Because of the review of the unreviewed Torah.
That's right. There's a section of the Zohar which is attributed to Rabbi Shimon Bar Yochai. It says that on the day he died, although it doesn't say it was Lag BaOmer in the Zohar, it does say that on the day he died, he gathered all the students, and there was a great light, and he revealed lots of secrets of Torah before he died. And so the day he died became actually a celebration. Yeah.
There is a song on YouTube with a lot of people dancing, and there is a word something like Rabbi Shimon.
Yeah. It's more than on YouTube. It's in real life. Probably the biggest Jewish gathering in the world is on Miron, near the tomb of Rabbi Shimon Bar Yochai, on the day of Lag BaOmer, and the day after Lag BaOmer as well. They spread it out now this year over two days, so that nobody gets hurt. You might have heard of the terrible tragedy we had 2 years ago. People were trampled on Lag BaOmer. So good. Okay, I think we've done what we can with this, and let me just conclude by saying there's one other little quiz question. Which of the days here have fit into two categories? So we mentioned that Rosh Chodesh, it's not on your page, but Rosh Chodesh fits into two categories. It fits into the category of a biblical holiday, and it also fits into the category of a minor commemoration, because we don't actually have any mitzvot to do on Rosh Chodesh, other than a little change in the prayers. So it's in one hand it's a minor commemoration, on the other hand Rosh Chodesh is biblical. And what Binyamin pointed out about Yom Kippur, we were just talking about that it's a festival, but it's also a fast day. It's a unique type of fast. Okay, so let's open up our books. Can we grab the books about the festivals here? And yeah, perfect. Yeah, thank you. And we'll proceed. We talked a little bit about Yom Yerushalayim. We'll talk about it more tomorrow and the next day. But we are in chapter 13 here, where it talks about Shavuot. We got up to section 5 on page 226. So Idan, it's your first time studying Judaism in an organized fashion?
Yes.
Welcome. And you living in Rehovot, you said, for 2 years now. Did a 2-year degree and you're finished.
Yes.
Mazal tov. Great. How do you like Israel?
I love it.
You love it? Yeah. Okay. You want to stay?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yes.
Wow. Right now you're on a tourist student visa?
No, I have because my father's Israeli, I came with a passport, and I got
So you're Israeli?
Yes.
Yeah. Okay. Good. You're considered a Toshav Choser or something like that?
I did. I got to Terat Zehut a year and a half ago now.
Yeah, do that too. Yeah. Okay. You have any rights of Aliyah or?
Yes.
Nice.
Yeah.
Okay, good. Okay. Are you married?
No.
Do you have a girlfriend? Maybe it's the hair. Do something with that hair. I don't know. How old are you, Ida? 28. How old are you, Israel? Yosef, how old are you?
33.
33. How old are you, Dimitri?
26.
26. Okay, we have an average age here. All the other guys are either too old or too young, but you guys are right there in the middle. Perfect. So, no, you're in the too young category. Okay. All right. Okay. Good. Page 226. Gabriel, take it away.
Your festival of weeks, when you bring an offering of new grain to the Lord. You shall observe the sacred occasion. You shall not do any melachah of labor.
Wow, so that's a verse from Bamidbar 28, 26 is a brief statement about our festival coming up in 10 days. And it says so much in those 3 lines. What does it say? First of all, it's called the Festival of Weeks, but it's also called Yom HaBikurim, the Day of the First Fruits. We already have 2 names there for this holiday. And it tells you what you do. You bring an offering of new grain to the Lord, which is interesting, right? New grain. We talked about it yesterday. What's the new grain made out of? Which type of grain do we bring? We bring wheat. We bring wheat. We're going to see that we make out of the wheat. We don't just bring wheat. We make out of the wheat bread. Very unique in the temple that we had actually a sacrifice of bread. And you shall observe a sacred occasion. You shall not do any melacha of labor. We talked about that at length earlier, how to define a melacha of labor versus a melacha for eating, for food, for necessities. That's allowed. Only melacha of labor is not allowed. Right? So we said that how the laws of Yom Tov are different from the laws of Shabbat. So much, every word here, we have to read carefully when we read from the Torah. So, those laws of Melacha, we've already fleshed out. The idea of the Festival of Weeks, we already spoke about how we're coming after the 7 weeks of the Omer. What about this first fruits business, Yom HaBikurim? Let's hear. Go ahead, Gabriel.
There are two meanings of Bikurim on Shavuot. First, Shavuot was the time of the offering of Shtei Halechem, which was referred to as Bikurim, first fruits. Because it was the first Mincha offering from the year's of wheat. Following this order, the Jews were permitted to bring.
Following this offering, the Jews were permitted.
Jews were permitted to bring further offerings from the new grain. Earlier on Pesach, the Omer offering permitted Jews to eat from their new grain, but not to bring sacrifices from it.
Stop there for a second. Who can tell me what that prohibition is called? Do you know that before Pesach, before they brought the Omer offering, what day was the Omer offering brought, Michael Aryeh?
On the 15th day. The whole day, 16th.
16th day. 16th day, right? 16th day was the Omer offering brought. And until then, you were forbidden from eating from the new grain. What was that prohibition called? That prohibition still applies today.
What's the question now?
There's a prohibition to eat from the new grain until the 16th, till the Omer offering on the 16th of Nisan. It's not on your charts, the 16th of Nisan. It should be there for the beginning of the counting of the Omer, right? Counting of the Omer, we start counting from the sacrifice on the 16th. But there's a prohibition up until the 16th, or up until the sacrifice was actually brought. There's a prohibition on partaking of the new grain. You know, this is the springtime, and the winter, the wheat grew all winter, and it gets harvested, but we're not allowed to eat from it.
Hola?
Nope. What did you say? No, you're just throwing out words. I'll give you a hint. You're not allowed, let me just explain what it is. The Torah says you're not allowed to partake of the new grain until you bring this sacrifice from the new grain. That's the beginning of the new season. It's like everything new. You have to thank Hashem first. Right? Would you make a bracha before you eat? You can't eat until you make a bracha. So in the day the temple stood, we had to bring a sacrifice, a communal sacrifice, that was done on behalf of everybody on the 16th of Nisan, and then we could partake of our new grain. We could make breads and pasta and cakes and cookies. Are you hungry? Sounds good. We should put this into practice. Bring some cakes and cookies. It's permitted now. The 16th of Nisan passed, right? We're already at 40 days after. It's the 40th day of the Omer. It's been 40 days. What's that prohibition called? That what's prohibited is partaking from the new crop of grain, the new harvest of the grain. That was my hint. What's the prohibition called? No. What's prohibited is the new grain. Chadash. Chadash. That's the name of the prohibition. Chadash. Chadash. You're not allowed to have any chadash until it becomes yashan. What's yashan? Old. When does chadash become yashan?
After the
16th of Nisan. after the sacrifice is brought. There's a prohibition on Chadash. The Chadash turns into Yashan immediately after the sacrifice on the 16th. We don't have a temple now, so you have to wait until the 16th. 16th is over, 17th you're allowed to partake from the new grain, from the new harvest of the grain. Okay? And so you're allowed to bring, you're allowed to eat, make breads from barley, even though the sacrifice is from barley, you're allowed to eat from wheat also. Maybe some of the wheat ripened early. Earlier, usually the barley ripens first and then the wheat, but it doesn't matter. It could be the wheat is, you get some early harvest of the wheat. You're allowed to eat it after the 16th of Nisan. Prohibition of Chadash is over. The only thing you're not allowed to do is to bring sacrifice. There were certain sacrifices we know of animals, and there were certain sacrifices of birds, and then there were certain sacrifices of wine, and there were certain sacrifices of oil, and there were sacrifices of flour. Flour is made from grain. You couldn't bring a sacrifice from the new crop of the grain, not till the 16th of Nisan, but from Shavuot, 50 days later. That's what he's saying here. The first meaning of Yom HaBikurim, the day of the first fruits, because it's the following this offering, the Jews were permitted to bring further offerings from the new grain. Right? Earlier on Pesach, the Omer permitted Jews to eat from the New Year's grain, but not to bring sacrifices from it. Okay? Yes? So far, so good? You got that? Prohibition of Chadash. Chadash is also the name of a political party in Israel. And here we learn it's prohibited to vote for them. Up until the 16th of Nisan. Depends when the election comes. Before or after. Okay? There is a custom outside the land of Israel. Most of you come from outside the land of Israel, right? Nobody here was born in Israel. So, when you look at a bakery, or you buy some breads or some lachmaniyot, many times it'll say on the kosher, it'll say kosher, parva. What does parva mean?
More than
No, parva,
milk.
not milk and not meat. Not milk and not meat. And then it'll say on it, lelo chashash chadash. Without any fear or any concern that this might be chadash, because chadash is prohibited. Outside the land of Israel, there is a custom. It goes back hundreds of years with no real good justification, but customs are customs, and that is that outside the land of Israel, we don't have to be careful about chadash. Some rabbis are very against it, and there are bakeries, Jewish bakeries, which it says on their door, we are very careful to only take wheat which is old. Those kind of bakeries, they say, we only sell yashan. Old. Doesn't mean it's too old, but yashan. In the Chutz La'aretz, you'll see that some bakeries have that and some don't, because there's an ancient custom, hundreds of years, that the Jews are not careful about this prohibition of chadash outside the land of Israel. Maybe they should. But the tradition is tradition, and we can't deny that. In any case, once you come to Israel, in Israel, of course, the prohibition applies in full force, and you have to be careful about the prohibition of chadash. That's what those rabbis do when they give kosher certification. They make sure that there's no chadash in it. It's only yashan. Okay. After Pesach, this time of year, no problems, right? It's the beginning of the next, the winter, spring, next year, you might have problems. Okay, so that's the first prohibition. Now, the first issue of why it's called the Yom HaBikurim, first fruits, because it's the first offering from the new wheat, from the New Year's wheat. Okay, now there's something else unique. There's a unique law. Go ahead, Gabriel, go ahead and read for us. There's a unique law.
There's a unique law which pertains into the Shtei Halechem offering Even though leaven was forbidden in the temple all year long, these 2 loaves were leavened, though they were not actually placed on the altar. They were eaten by the Kohanim.
What do we call leaven? Leavened bread? What do we call that?
Chametz.
Chametz. Chametz. So this is the only offering of chametz, except for one other, but this is the only public one, which is chametz, the communal sacrifice of chametz, the shtei halechem. On Shavuot, one of the sacrifices we were told to bring is to bring these 2 loaves of bread from the new grain, of course. Okay? That's the first meaning of Yom HaBikurim, the day of the first fruits, because it refers to the first sacrifice from the new grain. But the second meaning, Idan, can you read for us, please? Where are you from, Idan?
Ohio, California.
Ojai, California.
Ohio, California.
Ojai. Oh, hi. Sounds like a native. Oha. Is that where it comes from?
I think, yeah.
It's a native.
Yeah.
Okay, the second meaning.
The second meaning of Yom HaBikurim is that with the Shtei Halechem offering, the time had arrived for the mitzvah of Bikurim. In temple times, this mitzvah was relevant to anyone with a field where any of the 7 species grew. The farmer was required to take the first fruits to the temple and present them to the Kohanim. When he saw the first of his grain or fruit begin to ripen in his field, he tied a ribbon around them and declared, These are first fruits. When they finished ripening, he prepared them to be brought to the temple. All of the people from the periphery who were ascending to Jerusalem for the festival gathered together and slept in the streets of their town. When dawn broke, the appointed leader announced, Let's get up and go up to Zion, to the house of the Lord our God. When they traveled in a procession of decorated carriages accompanied by music. When they got close to Jerusalem, they sent messengers ahead to inform the residents that they were about to enter the city. Important Kohanim and other dignitaries went out to greet them. When they passed through the streets of Jerusalem, workmen stopped working and greeted them, Our brothers from such and such, welcome. Then they ascended to the Temple Mount, singing and dancing, with the baskets of Bikurim on their shoulders. Each pilgrim presented his basket to a Kohen and proclaimed, I acknowledge this day before the Lord your God that I have entered the land that the Lord swore to our fathers to assign us. The Kohen then took the basket and placed it before the altar. The pilgrim continued reciting the formula as written in the Torah, including the litany of travails that the Jews experienced from the beginning of their history until the redemption, and concluded, the Lord freed us from Egypt by a mighty hand, by outstretched arm and awesome power, and by signs and portents. He brought us to this place, and he gave us this land, a land flowing with milk and honey. Therefore I now bring the first fruits of the soil which you, O Lord, have given me. Together with offering Bikurim, pilgrims also offered a celebratory shlamim.
Right. It's the name of a sacrifice.
Mm-hmm.
An offering, yeah.
The time to bring Bikurim began with the Shtei Halechem on Shavuot and ended on Hanukkah. But the first fruits of wheat and barley crops were brought on Shavuot, leading to its name of Yom Bikurim.
Quite a parade. Bikurim was brought up to temple by Jews from all over the country. They would come in and they would make a procession, decorated baskets of fruit. There's another connection between Yom Yerushalayim and Shavuot. There's a custom to parade through the streets towards the Western Wall on Yom Yerushalayim as well. A little bit reminiscent of the procession, which the Talmud tells us was part of the first fruits offering in the times of the temple. And who recognized these verses quoted? The Lord freed us from Egypt with a mighty hand. Why should you all recognize these verses? You see where I'm reading on page 227? The 7th line, 8th line? It says, the Lord freed us from Egypt by a mighty hand, an outstretched arm, an awesome power. Where should you all know this from? Nope, it's not a part of the Shema. It's not in the Shema. Where do we say this? Page 227, line 8, 9, 10.
The Lord swore and
Where?
in Devarim.
That's where it comes from, I know, but why do you know it?
It's from some prayers. But
Which prayers?
I don't
Not
know.
quite prayers, but you all know it. You've all recited it. I hope. Not too long ago.
It's after the Shema.
Birkat Hamazon.
Not in Birkat Hamazon and not in the Shema, not after the Shema. Nope. Read it again and try to jog your memory. Hananel, should I say it in Hebrew? Maybe that'll help you? Because this is only English. Maybe you've been using the Hebrew. Vayotzienu Hashem Elokeinu Misham biyad chazaka v'zroa natuya v'moraim gdolim uveotot uv'moftim. That is part of the Haggadah shel Pesach. We quote this verse while telling the story of the Exodus. We say that the Lord took us out from Egypt with a mighty hand, an outstretched arm, an awesome power, and then we explain, what does it mean, a mighty hand? What does it mean, an outstretched arm? That's part of the Haggadah shel Pesach. We said it on the Seder night. What we didn't recite on the Seder night is the following pasuk, He brought us to this place and gave us a land. Of course, for thousands of years, Jews couldn't recite that, and we're just trying to tell the story of the Exodus. We're not talking about bringing our first fruits. And so we leave out the second part, where it talks about you broke us the land, flowing with milk and honey. But the first verse, we all quote as part of telling the story about the Exodus on the first night of Pesach. In any case, there's a procession. You bring the first fruits, give it to the Kohen, and you recite the text, which tells a little history of the Jewish people, and you thank Hashem for bringing you to this land. Wouldn't it be nice to have this today? All of us are coming from outside the land of Israel. It'd be nice, first of all, to have some fruits of our own. Have a little garden. I have a few fruit trees. Right now, the only fruits that are ripe are the mulberries. I have a mulberry tree in my garden. The other fruits are not ripe yet. Anyways, come to Jerusalem, come to the temple, say thank you, you brought us to this place, you took us out of Egypt, connects you to Jewish history. In any case, that's the mitzvah called Bikurim, to bring the first fruits. How many first fruits do you have to bring? Anybody know? How many Bikurim do there have to be? You have an apple tree. Okay, you have an olive tree. How many olives do you have to bring? You have a grapevine. How many grapes do you have to bring? You have a pomegranate tree. They get ripe every year.
10%?
Nope. Nope. There's no measure. There's no measure. There's no measure. No measurement. Yeah.
Yes.
We say it every day. Also, this you should say every day. When you say every morning, I say it and I will repeat and say, don't come to this class at 9 a.m. unless you've recited your brachot on the Torah. We're studying Torah. You have to say brachot first. Part of the morning prayer service is to say birkot HaTorah, the blessings on the Torah. And after we recite the blessings on the Torah, there's a tradition that we actually study some Torah. We recite some verses from three verses from the Torah. Birkat Kohanim, Yivarechecha Hashem v'yishmerecha, Yair Hashem panecha v'yechuneka, Yisa Hashem panav v'lecha v'yasem lecha shalom. And then we recite a Mishnah. What's the Mishnah? It's the first Mishnah in Masechet Pe'ah. Elu dvarim she'ein lahem shiur. These are the things that have no measure. Ha-pe'ah. First thing is the corner of the field that you give to the poor. No measure. You could give a small corner, a large corner. And the second thing in the list is Bikurim. Ha-pe'ah va-bikurim. Bikurim, that's what we're talking about, the mitzvah. What's the measure, I asked you? And no measure. Of course, the sages didn't leave it up in the air. They told you how much to bring. But biblically, you could bring 1 apple or 10 apples. It's up to you. How many of the fruits you want to give to Hashem? You're really presenting it on the altar, and then the Kohanim get to eat it afterwards. The Kohanim are representatives in the temple who don't have their own fields, and so they eat from the temple's food. And that's the Bikurim. Okay, mitzvah Bikurim we don't have today anymore because we don't have a temple, we don't have an altar. But you will find, like I said before, what do we do instead? We pray and we study. Many people study. If you look in your Machzor is a special prayer book for the holiday. Some people have a Machzor for each of the holidays. Most people know that there's a Machzor for your Rosh Hashanah and Yom Kippur because the prayers are so different. But there's also a Machzor for Pesach, Machzor for Shavuot. And in each Machzor, they add in not only the special prayers of that festival, but they add in the special Torah sections that we learn. So some Machzorim about Shavuot have Masechet Bikurim. It's one of the tractates, one of the 63 books of the Mishnah. So people study the Mishnah of Bikurim on Shavuot. It's only one day. But you have all night. What are you going to do all night? You can study anything you want, but you can also study Masechet Bikurim, which would be appropriate because this is called Chag HaBikurim. It's the beginning of the season of the first fruits bringing to Jerusalem. Is that clear? When I went to yeshiva when I was 17 years old, first time I saw this, but this was in Or Etzion by Rav Chaim Trukman. There, of course, we stay up all night and learn Torah, and then we all gather together before Shacharit starts, and together we would all learn this Mishnah of Bikurim. And the last chapter of the Mishnah has a description of the procession that we just read about. How all the storekeepers would come out and greet them, and how they would decorate the fruits and the baskets, and they would sing songs. And then we would sing songs. In the middle of studying the Mishnayot and reading the description of the procession, we would sing songs. I think there are other yeshivot who do that as well. Sort of like a recreation of the Bikurim procession, getting ready for the holiday of, or the prayer service in the morning of Yom HaBikurim. Is that clear? When could you bring Bikurim? When's the start point? The first chance you could bring your first fruits. Shavuot. And when's the last time you could bring the Bikurim? Chanukah. When's Chanukah? Kislev. What month is that? You have it on your page. Look. When's Shavuot and when's Chanukah?
The 9 months.
Which month is Shavuot in?
In the 3rd month.
3rd month, right? And when is Chanukah?
6 months later.
6 months later in the 9th month. So you have 6 months, basically the entire summer, and at the beginning of the winter also. You have to bring your first fruits to the temple. 6 months. Got that? The truth is there's a difference. Really, you should be bringing them up before Sukkot. When's Sukkot?
Tishrei.
Month number 7, right? Tishrei. That's the ideal time because by then all the fruits have been harvested. Sukkot is considered to be the festival of the ingathering of all the crops have been gathered together. Your storerooms are full. That's the end of the harvest season. There's only one more fruit really which ripens after Sukkot, in month number 8 and 9. Which fruit is that? It has something to do with Chanukah. No. Olives. Right, Chanukah is a celebration of zaitim. Olives is a celebration of light. Light comes from olive oil. Olives. The harvest of the olives is later. And so, ultimately, you're allowed to bring your bikurim till the last of the fruits get ripe. And that's considered to be the olives on Chanukah in the 9th month So you've got a 6 months period where you can bring your bikurim anytime during that period. Most people would bring it either on Shavuot if they were ripe, and if they weren't ripe then, they bring it when they came up for Sukkot. To this day, very smart, I mentioned that there's a little bit of a parade through the streets of Jerusalem on Shavuot and Yom Yerushalayim. When else is there a parade through the streets of Jerusalem? People come from all around the world. And they parade through the streets of Jerusalem with baskets of fruit. Not on Shavuot. Shavuot's one day. They do it on Sukkot. Sukkot, to this day, the people come from all around the world. There's parades with people from 30 different countries. As far as Japan, non-Jews also. They come, they know Sukkot is, there's other sources for Sukkot being a time when all the nations are supposed to come to Jerusalem. But the concept of, that was when most people would bring their bikurim, that got all ripe, they set aside the first fruits, and if they didn't go bad, then they could bring them during the month of Tishrei. When they're coming up to Jerusalem anyways to celebrate Sukkot, they also brought their bikurim at that time. But the beginning time of bringing bikurim is Shavuot. That's why it's called Chag HaBikurim. And Chag HaKatzir, we said before. Sukkot is called Chag HaAsif, the ingathering, the gathering up of the harvest. It's because it's the end of the harvest. Basically, the harvest period is between Shavuot and Sukkot, and Chag HaKatzir starts off the season. Chag HaAsif, Sukkot ends the season. The summer months. Summer months 4, 5, and 6 are the summer months. Tammuz, Av, and Elul. That's the hottest season of the year. Summer, when all the fruits ripen, and you gather them in, you harvest them, harvest the fruits, and then you put aside the first fruits, the first ones that ripen. How do you set them aside? How do you mark? How do you know which ones are the fruit? Let's say you have 100 peaches on your peach tree, or you have 100 pomegranates on your pomegranate tree. How do you know which is the first one?
You tie
a ribbon on it, exactly. You make some kind of mark, you tie a ribbon, and then whenever you get the chance to go up to Jerusalem with this massive parade and procession, you take those fruits which were already marked by a ribbon and you bring them to Jerusalem. That's the festival. That's why it's called Yom HaBikurim. 2 meanings. One is it's the first sacrifice from the grain, from the wheat, and the second one is the beginning, the opening of the season of bringing the first fruits in general, all first fruits throughout the summer. First fruits that are going to ripen, we have to set them aside and bring them to Jerusalem sometime during the summer. And if you don't make it by Sukkot, you even get an extension. Did you finish all your papers, Idan? You said you're just in school. You finished everything?
Yeah.
No extensions needed?
I took a few months extra.
You did take a few weeks. So the Torah gave us an extension for the first fruits up until the 9th month, till the month of Kislev, till Hanukkah. Okay, but we're not farmers now. Enough is said about the festival of Bikurim. There's one other name that we haven't mentioned about the name of Shavuot, and that's called Atzeret. All right, Yosef, we read for us, please. Atzeret. That's page 227.
In rabbinic literature, the festival of Shavuot is called Atzeret. At first glance, this is surprising. The Torah refers to the last day of Pesach as Atzeret, and refers to the day following the 7 days of Sukkot as Shemin Atzeret. Why did the sages choose to ignore biblical precedent and refer to Shavuot as Atzeret? Let us explore the meaning of the word. Atzeret is related to Atzera, stopping.
Hang on. Did you ever see a sign that looks like this? Usually they're red.
Stop sign.
Right? Sometimes they have a hand. Right? What does this mean? A red sign.
No entry.
Stop. It's a stop sign. And sometimes it says, instead of the hand, it says on it, I'll erase the hand so you can read the writing. It says, Atzor. Atzor. Stop. It's a stop sign. Atzor. Stop. Not Asur. Asur is with Aleph Samach. Aleph Samach Vav. Asur means tied up. That's a prohibition. It's called an Isur because it's something that's forbidden. It's tied up. That's a different word. Atzor, Ayin Tzadi Vav means stop. So there's a festival called Atzeret, a day of stopping. What's the stopping? Go ahead. Yosef, read for us.
Let us explore the meaning. The word Atzeret is related to the word Atzra. Related to the word Atzra, stop. An Atzeret is a time when many people refrain, example, stop themselves from doing other things, and gather together to celebrate. They then internalize and observe the message that the celebration is meant to convey. This helps us to understand why, at the conclusion of Pesach and Sukkot, the Torah prescribes an additional Yom Tov. It is meant as a meaningful send-off for all the pilgrims celebrating near the temple. It helped them internalize and hold on to their experiences during the whole festival, even if one is out on the going to Jerusalem. He was required to stop working on the final day of Yom Tov. He needed to internalize all of his spiritual accomplishments and the joy he experienced during the festival, which would then strengthen and elevate him during all the upcoming weekdays. There was no greater Atzeret in the world history.
So one second before that. So the Talmud actually tells a story, a midrash, of the following use of the word Atzeret. We're supposed to go visit Hashem. Where does he live? Everywhere, right. So how can we go visit him? He's everywhere. We have to visit him 3 times a year. Where do we have to go visit him? In his house. Where's his house? Jerusalem, the temple in Jerusalem, right? So we go visit him, and we have a party. Now, how long is the party? Usually 7 days. Usually 7 days is the party. And then everybody goes home. Have you ever heard of a concept? Hananel, do they have this in India? It's called the after party. After party? In the Philippines? No, never heard of such a thing? Idan, tell us.
Some other party, but it's not very often.
Yeah, in Brazil, right? Where are you from? Colombia. They have an after party, right? Yeah.
After party.
Right? What's the after party? It's such a strange thing. You have a party, what do you need an after party for? So, for example, you have a concert. Many people have a concert. There's 30,000 people come to the concert to listen to some good music. And then when the concert's over, 30,000 people go home. And very important people, some VIPs, they get to stay. After the concert, there's a small gathering, maybe 100 people, maybe 200 people, friends of the artist, singer, and they have a little party. They have food. They gather together. They schmooze. It's called the after party. It's only for the intimate group of friends. It's a smaller party. Why do we need this? What? You had a big party. So the Talmud says, before their word after party existed, the Talmud says that God said the following calculation. He said, on Pesach, on Sukkot, everybody's coming, especially on Sukkot. I said there's even an element that the non-Jews come on Sukkot. 7 days, that was quite a festival. But when it's over, everybody goes home. All the nations of the world go back on their planes and they buy all the trinkets at the gift shops. They have their souvenirs and they go home. God says, but I want to have a small, intimate party with my beloved people, with my very important people, with my closest friends. That's the Jewish people. And so that's why after the 7 days of Sukkot, the 8th day is called Shmini Atzeret. Atzeret. Day of stopping. Who's stopping what? Not only are we stopping from mundane things and concentrating on the festival, he's stopping the Jewish people from leaving. He says, don't leave yet. Stay one day longer. So the stopping is a day which is a special day that shows even more cherished love and caring for the Jewish people. So one more day, because we can't bear to depart. There's something very, very precious about that last day, the after party. Right? There's something even extra special. So that's what applies on the last day of Sukkot, right? The 8th day, of 7 plus 1. And on Pesach, the Torah tells us that the first day is a holiday and the 7th day is a holiday. They're called Atzeret. So you could say that that's the day we're supposed to stop, not leave so fast. Stay one more day. Stay one more day with me, Hashem says to us, and we have this sort of private party. But what does that have to do with? What does that have to do with Shavuot? Shavuot's only one day. So here he tries to explain why our sages, doesn't appear in the Torah, our sages called the day of Shavuot itself Atzeret. Okay? Page 228. Go ahead.
There was no greater Atzeret in world history than the revelation at Sinai, when all Jews united to accept the Torah. Thus, we read Israel encamped, the Yechan in the singular, there in front of the mountain, Shemot, as one person with one heart, Rashi. All the other encampments are recorded in the plural, as in every community there are always arguments and disagreements. Only then and there, facing the mountain with the intention of accepting the Torah, were all united. This is the meaning of Rabbi Akiva's statement, love your fellow as you love yourself. It's a vital principle of the Torah, Sifrat Rishim. It is through the Torah that love and unity are revealed among the Jews. And it is through unity that the Torah is revealed. It was not only the Jews of that generation who were present at Sinai and accepted the Torah, but the souls of all Jews of all times, including those of all future converts. Acceptance of the Torah finally put an end to the defilement which had adhered to them as a result of the sin of Adam and Chava. The Torah itself refers to the day of Matan Torah as Yom HaKahal, the day of assembly, meaning the time when the whole community gathered together. As we read the exact words that our Hashem had addressed to you out of the fire on the day of assembly. Actually, the same Shavuot has something in common with the meaning of Atzeret, because it indicates summing up and pulling together all the spiritual achievements reached while counting the 7 weeks. Since the Omer count begins on Pesach, Shavuot turns out to be the finale and conclusion of the process that begins with Pesach. We see that the sages did not change anything by calling Shavuot Atzeret, as Shavuot is indeed a festival of gathering and summing up. The Torah's preference for the name Shavuot emphasizes the preparations the Jews underwent before Matan Torah. In contrast, the sages' preference for the name Atzeret emphasizes the Jews gathering together to observe the divine overflow that Hashem grant us at the conclusion of the Omer period.
Okay, so we have Shavuot. In some ways, I explained to you before that it's like the conclusion of Pesach. Sukkot has 7 days plus 1. Sukkot has 7 weeks and then 1. 7 weeks and then 1 day of Shavuot. So Shavuot is essentially the Atzeret, the extra day, the extra special after party of Pesach. Okay? Even though the 7th day is already somewhat the summary of the first week, but there are 7 weeks that continue that festival of Pesach, and Shavuot therefore is some way a day of stopping, a day of gathering in all of the meanings of the festival. This is the last festival for 6 months almost. Right? There's basically 2 beginnings of the year, month 1 and month 7. Right? 12 divided by 6, 12 divided by 2 is 6. Right? So there's 6 months and 6 months. So Sukkot is at the end of the 6 months, and Pesach is at the beginning of the 6 months. And so that this festive period at the beginning of the first month ends not immediately, but it ends 50 days later, the beginning of Sivan. It's really the conclusion of this entire 50-day, 7-week holiday, 7-week process of coming out of Egypt, becoming a Jewish nation. So it's a summary, this atzeret, meaning stopping and summing up and pulling together all the spiritual achievements, is what we do on Shavuot. So really there's no greater atzeret than Shavuot, even though the Torah doesn't actually call it an atzeret. Sages were really reading between the lines, understanding what Shavuot is supposed to mean for us. Okay? So far so good? Okay, Hanana, how are you? Yeah, you're feeling good? You're looking good. Maybe we'll talk after class for a minute. Okay? 40 days of the Omer. 40 days. Who here has counted every single day of the Omer? You? Amazing. Every day. You counted every day? Yeah?
Yeah.
With a bracha?
Yeah.
Every day.
So, sorry, counted what?
The Omer. The Omer it's part of the services we say during this period of the year. Every day we count 49 days. We say a bracha before we count. Israel, you counted every day? With a bracha? Every day? You never skipped any day? Didn't miss any day? Gabriel? No, you skipped a day. You missed a day. Benjamin?
I try.
You try.
So
You get points for trying.
yeah.
It's not too late to start. If you haven't started at the beginning, you can still count today. Say today. Say now. Today is 40 days of the Omer. Say. Everybody say it with me. Hayom 40 yom la'omer. We also count the weeks. Shem chamisha shavuot. V'chamisha yamim la'omer. 5 weeks. He's got a whole chart for you every day. He's got his own page. And there's a spiritual work which you can do. Today's 40th day. It's never too late to start. Some people say you can't start in the middle. You can't start counting 40 to 49. What about 1 through 39? But so what we do is the rabbis say you should count, but without a bracha. You can't say the bracha if you skipped some. If you missed one, if you miss even one day, you can't no longer count with a bracha, but you can still count. You can still count, and you should count, because according to many poskim, that each day is its own mitzvah. So today, you did the mitzvah, you counted the Omer. Today's 40 days of the Omer, which are 5 weeks and 5 days. Tomorrow, you can count, you have 9 more chances to do this mitzvah. From today on. Gabriel, from today on, you think you could do it for 10 days in a row? We already did 1. 1 down. 9 more days. Try every single day to count the Omer. When do we count the Omer?
Right after sunset.
We usually do it at night. We usually do it in the evening, after Mariv. Right. We usually do it it's the beginning of the Halal Jewish day. Right? Before Aleinu. Some people do it after Aleinu. It depends on the community. But yeah, in the evening. Evening, you should count the Omer every single day. And if you didn't yet, you still have the opportunity. Sorry?
You can have a friend say the bracha if he has counted.
That's right. You can listen to his bracha and answer Amen. That's a good solution. You know who always says the bracha out loud, just in case you can't say it yourself? The Chazan. The Chazan says the bracha out loud. We all listen. If you know that you're not allowed to recite the bracha yourself because you skipped a day, or maybe you skipped 39 days, I don't know. Maybe you didn't know the mitzvah yet. So you can still listen to his bracha, answer Amen, and then you count. Hayom 40 yom. Shem chamisha shavuot v'chamisha yamim la'omer. And there's other prayers people add on, but that's the essence of it. It's just to count the day. Count the day. They say the Jews are always counting. Now the anti-Semite says the Jews are always counting their money.
So this new parasha is about counting censuses.
The entire book is called the Book of Numbers in some translations of the Torah. At the beginning of the Parsha Bamidbar, we're supposed to count the Jewish people. So there's lots of counts in the Book of Bamidbar. That's why I got the name Numbers. But this is really the only mitzvah that we have nowadays to count. 49 days from the Omer until the festival of Shavuot. What others? What else? What other count is there in Judaism?
Count for the minyan.
Counts for 10 to get a minyan. I like that. What else?
half a shekel.
Well, you don't have to count it. What did they use half a shekel for?
To count the Jewish people.
To count the Jewish people, but we don't do that nowadays. Now we have a census, but some rabbis don't like the census because you're not supposed to count Jewish people.
I don't know. That's Hanukkah a little bit.
Hanukkah, we sort of count 1 to 2 to 3 to 4. We add a candle each night. That's counting in some way. You know what else?
So you say we have some census or what?
The Israeli government has a census. Sure, they need to know population for purposes of government services and everything. It makes every modern Western country has a census, but as long as we don't count heads, you're not violation of the Torah. The Torah says every Jew in the time of the biblical times would give a half a shekel, and they would count the half shekels up, and then they'd know how many Jews there are. Good, but what other mitzvah? Where else do we do counting in Judaism? Who else counts? Did you ever see Sesame Street?
Yes.
10 chocolate cakes. What is it?
Never.
God says that there are 10 things that He told us at Sinai. It's true, but it's not really a count. What else do we count? This is you're supposed to count. What else are we supposed to count?
The years from Shemitah.
Yes, count the years of Shemitah, 7 years of Shemitah, and then 7 cycles of Shemitah. You get Yovel. Good.
And also
That's a counting.
the people like Tzara and stuff, they also have to count, right? After they finish the.
Yes.
Yes. So if you make a mistake,
Many purities
yes.
and impurities, the way you had to release yourself from the state of impurity is by counting 7 days.
Because it stated also with the woman. So it stated like the woman.
Right, a
has to
menstruating
count.
woman has to count 7 days, and then she can be permitted once again to her husband. Right?
We now like the menstruating woman, they say, right?
What?
We are now like the menstruating woman.
Oh.
In Shavuot.
Well, it's a
Hey,
little too
because-
personal, but
No, but
in some ways, yes.
If
This
you can
idea that
go-
we're counting the Omer now, it's like a woman who is impure, and we're
Yes.
trying to reach purity. So too, the entire Jewish people.
yes,
We were in
go.
Egypt, we were assimilated, we were connected to the impurity of the Egyptians, and now we're leaving Egypt. We're trying to get pure, we're trying to receive the Torah. So there's a counting of 7 weeks, which is parallel to the 7 days, of a menstruating woman as part of her process of becoming pure again. That's true, that's right.
And some people call the Yom Suf the Red Sea.
So,
Connection, bro. Never mind.
too graphic. Too graphic. Okay, Red Sea. It should be Reed Sea, no?
Oh, it's
Yom
maybe
Suf.
that's Dutch translation.
Yeah, no,
Because we
but
go up like we always call it the Red Sea. I don't know.
it's called the Red Sea by.
It's Red Sea originally.
But I think originally it should be Reed Sea. It's a corruption. It's
Yes.
corruption. It's called the Red Sea till today. Right? Many cultures, many people call it the Red Sea, Yam Ha'adom. But really, it's Yam Suf. It should be Reed Sea, not Adom. In any case, so counting, a lot of counting. I'm trying to think if there's any other countings. Well, I know. What day is today? Did we say? Tuesday. We said it's the 40th of Omer, but today's Tuesday. Tuesday? I think that's the name of a Greek god, Tuesday.
No. It's from the tea. It's like a tea day.
Tea?
It's from English.
Is it? Ah, I see. I know that definitely
Thursday is from
Thursday's a Roman
from
god.
Thor,
From Thor.
One of the Norman,
Uh-huh.
a lot of Germanic.
So what's the way? How do we name the names of the week in Hebrew?
Yom Echad, Yom Sheni,
Yom Rishon, Yom Sheni, Yom Shlishi,
Yom
Yom Revi'i. We say it's the first day, the second day, the third day. We count the days of the week. Why? Because we're counting up to Shabbat. Exactly. So we're always counting. The Jews are always counting every week. We count 6 days and then there's Shabbat. So counting the Omer is not a strange thing to us. It's quite a Jewish concept. Jews are always counting. Well, I heard once a nice explanation by Rav Soloveitchik. He said, when you count, he was talking about Sfirat HaOmer and saying, Why, if you miss a day, why is it not kosher? You can't continue to count with the bracha. You can still count without a bracha. Well, because the concept of counting is that you have a sequence. You have a sequence. If you miss out the sequence, it's meaningless. But also, he said there's a spiritual idea. When you count today's 40. So within that count of 40, it means that there was a day 1, 2, 3, 4 through 39. You wouldn't have been able to get to 40 if there wasn't 39. Not only that, why are you counting? Because you're counting towards Shavuot. You know that there's going to be 49. It's 40, which comes before 41, 42, 43. So when you count, you're aware of your present, your past, and your future. It's not just one day that's not connected to anything else. It's like a dust in the wind, speck, which has no root and has no direction to the future. Counting, the very act of counting connects you to your past, connects you to the future. That's why it's so Jewish to count. We're always counting.
If you know the past, you know the future.
That's right. If you don't have a past, you don't have a future. Good. Anyways, it's a nice explanation, right? The mitzvah of counting. That's why I don't think it's too late to start counting. Day 40, day 41. There's 9 more times you can do this mitzvah of counting. Every time you count, even if you didn't actually say the first 40, 39, you could still, the very fact that you count 40, and the fact that you count 41, it's connecting you willy-nilly to day 1 through 39. Okay, so every day is its own day of counting. The very fact that the act of counting is very unique and it's very Jewish and it connects you to your past and to your future. And of course, we're leading up to a special day, Shavuot. Shavuot. After the 49 days, we celebrate Shavuot. And there's a few more paragraphs here about the nature of Shavuot, which we'll get to Bezrat Hashem soon. Then there's some laws about Shavuot studying all night and the different practices we have, what we read from the Torah. There's still 10 pages of material, 13 pages, which we're going to get to Bezrat Hashem in the coming week. We have a week to go. We do have classes all week next week, Sunday, Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, but not on Thursday. We only have 4 days next week, because Thursday is Erev Chag. Just like Fridays we don't have regular classes. So the day before the festival's Thursday night, Friday. So Thursday, there's no classes either. So next week we only have 4 days. And then this week we have tomorrow's Wednesday and Thursday. But we do have regular classes, although they're going to be about special topic like Yom Yerushalayim. We're going to be speaking about that. So we have basically 6 more classes before the holiday of Shavuot. We should manage to do the 13 pages. Okay?
But the Yom Yerushalayim, how is we have the whole day lesson, or we go
First, in the morning we have regular classes, because really the festival of Yom Yerushalayim is Friday. But because we don't want to cause any Chilul Shabbat on Friday, we actually start the celebrations early. We start on Thursday afternoon. So by Thursday afternoon, there's already going to be a special tour.
it's like after Mincha, like for
I don't know exactly the details of the timing. I don't think they're up yet, but you'll be told. Today is Tuesday, so in 2 days' time, we're already going to be starting the celebrations. Party. Ready to party, Idan? Have you ever been in Jerusalem on Jerusalem Day? No, I haven't. Wow. Have you been, Dimitri, have you been in Jerusalem? Where were you last year?
I think I missed it. Maybe worked that day.
Yeah, people don't know about it unless you're in Jerusalem. It's a big deal, but
But I was in Yerushalayim, yes.
on Jerusalem Day?
Yeah.
Okay. So Seder, thank you. Good first class, you done? Yeah. All right?
Yeah.
I promise not to bite, although I can't promise for every day. The first day I behave nicely, right?